Jeff with Koncept Garage here, taking you behind the scenes for this 2-car garage cleanout we did in Westlake. This is an HOA community, very strict. They want all the vehicles parked inside the garage, so that was the primary impetus for this project. They have a teenage son. They wanted to give the son a space to work on his mountain bikes. He's really into mountain bikes. They want to nurture that hobby of his and provide him with a space to tune up his bikes, work on his bikes, upgrade his bikes. The client also had some household overflow. The house, like most houses, does not have enough storage, so they don't have a mud room. They needed a spot for dirty shoes. Pantry's too small, so the paper goods, pantry backstock, they needed a spot for those items. And let me show you some of the before photos here. So Park City, I love Park City. This is basically the current, this was the existing mountain bike maintenance slash workshop area. You see this ping pong table too. This was folded up, and big question mark for them. It's like, hey, do we use the space as a playroom? Could we pull the cars out and, the teenager can have his buddies over and horse around there? Like most garages I walk into to start, there are existing storage systems in place. We see a lot of these elbow brackets with a piece of wood, fixed in place wall shelves. I see a lot of these Rubbermaid fast track systems where they just, spread things across the wall. They're never used efficiently. I don't like these. I always say, let's get rid of them. Baker's racks. I don't hate Baker's racks. We often repurpose them in attics and sheds simply because they hold a lot of weight. And then these off-the-shelf floor racks here. I don't like this press board. Over time, it doesn't hold a lot of weight. Over time, I've seen these just disintegrate and collapse. So we want to get rid of all of those systems. With a cleanout, usually we are handling the possessions. There's a percentage of possessions the homeowner is ready to say goodbye to. So my organizers are going through all the possessions, but there's also a build-out component, meaning we're installing new systems. So to the public, we call them cleanouts. Internally, we call them combos because it's a combination of a cleanout and a build-out. Oftentimes, given the budget restraints with a cleanout project, we don't do the epoxy flooring. Sometimes we could squeeze in painting, but garage door work, like these openers, they need to be replaced. The lighting could be upgraded. That is never included in a cleanout because of budget constraints. But when we upgrade to a renovation, the use case is still the same, right? Store and park, but we're always including those specialty trade services: garage door openers, garage doors, lighting, electrical, plumbing if it's applicable, painting, epoxy flooring, custom cabinetry, all these other different services we offer. So you could see here that they have, this is what we call low-grade coating. Low-grade epoxy coating, but it's peeled off. I mean, these low-grade coatings, somebody just basically rolls some epoxy paint on the concrete and walks away, and the second you start parking on it, it starts peeling off and failing. So you can see it's stained, you can see it's peeled off. This is a failed floor. There was no concrete prep. There's no repairs or anything like that was made. That's often the case. Usually this will happen when somebody's selling a house or a builder's just finished a house. They'll go ahead and have somebody just roll on a cheap coat of epoxy just to make it look pretty, but then it needs to be all ground off to have a true epoxy floor installed. We can't install a new epoxy floor over an existing coating. So when my guys were pulling that Rubbermaid fast track system off the wall, they noticed the screws were completely corroded, and they raised a red flag. So whoever installed that fast track system actually drilled into a pipe. So, we put our investigative hats on and tried to figure out what kind of pipe is this? Is it, is it a drain line? Is it a bathroom exhaust pipe, like a blow-off system? And what we found was, there's no water running through this. It vents up through the roof, so it's bathroom exhaust. And that's why, the corrosion happened, because these screws were exposed to the outside air elements. But we sealed that up, seeing there's no water running through it. If this was a water pipe, that would have been a big challenge. But, there would have been water all over the place to start with when they installed this. But we would have cut this out and replaced that pipe, seeing it was just exhaust. Okay. Painting. There were so few possessions that they decided to keep. We didn't put a mobile storage unit in the driveway. We simply tarped everything off so our painter could get in there and do his thing. A couple of tiers of painting we offer when the drywall's in really good shape. There's, the tape lines are pretty good. Minor drywall repairs, and in this garage, there wasn't any texture on the wall. So if there was, we would blend the texture, but minor drywall repairs we take care of. So all the little screw holes, we treat these spaces as interior spaces. We don't leave screws in the wall and paint over them. We don't leave holes in the wall and paint over them. If there's failed tape lines on the ceiling, we don't just, slap a fresh coat of paint on that stuff. We did, if you've watched the extreme garage renovation video with the green Lamborghini and the car lift, and you'll notice that the color palette in that garage influenced this client's color palette. So you see the black baseboard trim and the black door and then the repost gray walls. They didn't go dark ceiling. I suggested against that, seeing we weren't upgrading the lighting. It would have made it look really dark. A dark ceiling brings the ceiling down. That's the perception it gives, so it lowers the ceiling height. I never recommend it when there's an 8-foot ceiling. This is a 10-foot ceiling, but still, I don't want to make this space feel any darker or smaller than it was. It's only 400 square feet, 20 by 20. So to be able to park 2 cars in there and use it as a storage space, spatial constraints are a big factor when we talk garages. Oh, here's something interesting. So whoever put this valve in did not do any real drywall care around this. I mean, it was just kind of slapped in, and it looks like somebody just took a knife and cut this out and then put some spray foam in there. So we had a lot of work to do. When our painter, went to start repairing this, I said, listen, this just has to be completely redone. So that's what we did. Okay, let me show you some after photos. So the drop zone was important. Next to the door to the home, essential items, things that are used inside, we always like to put those nearest the door to the home. It just makes sense, right? If we were to put this system somewhere else, these possessions would just pile up next to the door to the home anyway. So that we always try and play into how the client is using the space and their possessions and factor that into our designs. So you can see here, this is just a bit of household overflow and then cleaning supplies. So on the back wall, given the size of their vehicles, the fact that they needed to park 2 cars in here for the HOA requirements, we had to get a little creative. Whenever we have spatial constraints, I love it. I'm an engineer, so that to me is always a big challenge. Some amateur can come in here and just put up shelves and do their thing, but the garage would not stay organized or function as the client wanted. So the refrigerator had to stay on the back wall. Okay, there was no way we were putting that refrigerator on the sides given the width of the garage, the size of the vehicles. The mountain bikes we put on the back wall in these swiveling bike racks. Okay, so great space utilization here. Here's the little mud room area, prep zone, drop zone that we created for them because, again, remember, the door to the home is over here. So they're walking by this anyway. We didn't have a lot of budget, so we preserved one of their possessions, this wood chair, and created a really economical mudroom prep area for them. And then the open face wall shelves, very economical. We're really leveraging the ceiling height here and not hanging things off the ceiling. I said this in another video. I do not like overhead racks. I don't like them at all. We use them as a last resort. They drop the ceiling height. They make the space feel small, claustrophobic. They're not pretty or sexy. They just clutter up the space. And then they make the space feel even darker because the limited amount of light we have on the ceiling is now not traveling down to the floor. So it's a dark dungeon boiler room look. So we don't need overhead racks because we have open face wall shelves, and we can put those high up when there's non-essential items like paint, and then preserve the open feel of the high ceiling. This is a 10-foot ceiling, which is great height. I mean, it feels like a big open room. Second we put overhead racks on the ceiling, we lose all those design benefits. And then here on this second row, they still can access these items from the floor. I mean, they could grab their paper towels and go inside. Their grab-and-go items, their coolers, that sort of stuff is up here. Okay, here's the left wall. So let me zoom out and show you a different photo. Yeah, I'll show you this one. Okay, so when the son wants to tune up his bikes or do some bike maintenance, they simply pull a car out, He folds up this folding workbench, has a platform, and then the slat wall has all his essential bike repair, bike maintenance items on there. So he pulls a bike off a bike rack, puts his bike stand up, flips this workbench open, and he has a great workspace. There's minimal friction points. So these are the design factors we consider when we're doing a garage, whether it's a clean out or a renovation or a conversion. There's a lot of thought in engineering, measurements, spatial considerations, and then flow, right? I mean, we could have easily put this workbench somewhere else, put the sidewall somewhere else, and done the bike somewhere else, and not had thought through how this teenager is actually going to be interacting with the space. So when we talk space planning, storage space planning, interior design, our design principles, these are the things that we're factoring in, considering. And if you're DIY in your garage, think through these. Think about how you're going to flow into and out of the space, where the possessions make the most sense to be stored. And then once you have that understanding and your measurements taken care of, choose your storage systems based on those criteria, not the opposite way around. Don't go buy something from Home Depot and say, oh, I could fit a floor rack over here, so that's just what I'm going to do. Don't do that, because as you do that time and time again and just hodgepodge these different systems together, it's going to get out of control and become impossible to keep organized. It's not going to be fun to interact with this space or spend time in the garage, and then you're going to be stuck in what we call the DIA loop, that do it again loop. So heed my advice there. And then here's finally a shot of the other side of the garage, so you could see the door to the home, their drop zone area, easy access to household overflow, and the ability to walk around both sides of the car, pull the car out, have a great functional mountain biking maintenance studio. So if you like this video, please subscribe to our channel. Check us out on Instagram, Koncept Garage. We post a lot of content there. And if you're in the Austin area and need help or know someone who needs help, send them to our website. We'd be more than happy to help.